Federal grand jury in Florida approved about 30 subpoenas in a Justice Department investigation linked to the probes by the CIA and FBI into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Now, that's according to a source familiar with the matter. Those receiving subpoenas included former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. We begin this hour with what may be Donald Trump's most overarching attempt at wielding the powers of the Justice Department to enact his retribution, not only on his perceived enemies, but also the highest levels of the Obama administration. Probes have already been exhaustively investigated, not once, but twice, folks. Once by the Trump-appointed special counsel John Durham, and also by then Senator Marco Rubio as chairman of the Senate Select Committee.
Okay, so you need to hear about what just happened in court, because this is absolutely wild. One of Trump's lawyers just admitted to misconduct, not got caught and denied it, not tried to spin it or explain it away, actually confessed in open court to intentionally deceiving the judge and withholding evidence. And the judge's response was immediate and brutal, threatened the lawyer with jail time right there on the spot. We're talking about criminal contempt, about arrest, about a federal judge looking at an attorney and saying, if you continue this behavior, you're going to be led out of here in handcuffs. This all went down on October 31st, and the courtroom apparently erupted. People couldn't believe what they were witnessing, because lawyers don't confess to misconduct. They fight, they deny, they appeal, they do anything except stand up and admit they deliberately lied to a judge, but that's exactly what happened. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust headlines anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
I think people not trusting our institutions anymore because they think, oh, okay, it just seems blatantly corrupt. They are out there for a predetermined outcome, but they have these predetermined conclusions. They get up at these podiums, they announce them, and it unfortunately just contributes to of these investigations, these constant subpoenas that have already been exhaustively investigated.
The judge didn't just accept the confession and move on. The judge had receipts, literally pulled out documents and laid them side by side with the lawyer's sworn statements, showed everyone in the courtroom the contradictions, the lies, the evidence that had been withheld. This wasn't a he said, she said situation. This was the judge methodically demonstrating that Trump's lawyer had looked the court in the eye and lied under oath, had withheld critical communications and internal documents that were required to be turned over, had engaged in what the judge called intentional deception, not a misunderstanding or an oversight, but deliberate misconduct designed to help Trump's case by hiding evidence that would hurt it. Witnesses in the courtroom said you could feel the tension escalating, the judge's voice getting sharper, the questions getting more pointed, the lawyer trying to explain and making it worse with every answer. Because once you start down the path of admitting misconduct, you can't really walk it back. You can't say, just kidding, I was lying when I said I was lying. So the lawyer had to sit there and face the consequences of their own confession, while the judge laid out exactly how serious this was, how it wasn't just an ethical violation, but potentially criminal, how it undermined the entire judicial process, how it showed a complete disrespect for the oath attorneys take when they're admitted to the bar. The contempt threat wasn't theoretical. The judge made it very clear that if this behavior continued, if there was any further dishonesty or obstruction, the lawyer would face immediate criminal contempt proceedings. Not a warning for next time, not a sternly worded letter, immediate arrest, immediate consequences. The judge explained the difference between civil and criminal contempt, how criminal contempt is about punishing behavior that disrespects the court's authority, how it can result in jail time, how judges have the power to enforce it right there in the moment without waiting for some future hearing. This was a judge telling a lawyer, you are this close to going to jail, and the only thing stopping it is whether you decide to behave yourself for the rest of this proceeding. What makes this even more significant is the pattern, because this isn't the first Trump lawyer to face contempt threats. This isn't the first time Trump's legal team has been accused of withholding evidence or making false statements. This is part of a broader trend, multiple cases, multiple judges, multiple lawyers, all ending up in similar situations where judges are threatening sanctions or contempt or disbarment. That tells you something about how Trump's defense strategy works. It's not about following the rules and making the best legal arguments within those rules. It's about pushing boundaries, testing what you can get away with, withholding information until you're caught. And apparently some lawyers are willing to go along with that approach, even when it puts their own licenses and freedom at risk. Social media exploded when this happened. Videos of the exchange going viral, legal commentators breaking down what it means, people who've never watched a court proceeding in their lives suddenly interested because this is the kind of drama you don't see every day. A lawyer confessing to lying, a judge threatening jail time, Trump's defense falling apart in real time. It's got everything, and it's all playing out while Trump is facing multiple other cases, multiple other legal battles where similar questions about attorney conduct are being raised. This confession and contempt threat might be happening in one courtroom, but the implications ripple across all of Trump's legal troubles. So buckle up, because we're about to break down exactly what this lawyer confessed to, why it matters so much, and what it means for Trump's increasingly desperate legal situation. This is the kind of disaster that ends legal careers and tanks cases, and we just watched it happen in real time. All right, let's get into the specifics, because the details of what this lawyer admitted to are crucial for understanding just how bad this is. The hearing on October 31st was supposed to be about evidence disclosure. In any legal case, both sides have to turn over relevant documents and communications to each other. It's called discovery. The whole point is that trials shouldn't be about surprises. Both sides should know what evidence exists so they can prepare their arguments. It's a fundamental part of how the justice system works. And Trump's lawyer apparently decided that some evidence was better left hidden, made a calculated decision to withhold critical communications and internal documents that the judge had specifically ordered to be produced. Now, we don't know exactly what was in those withheld documents yet. That information might still be under seal, but we know they were significant enough that the judge considered them critical to the case. And we know that when the judge started asking questions about these documents, the lawyer's story started falling apart. The judge had done their homework, had evidence that these documents existed, had proof that they should have been turned over, and when confronted with that evidence, Trump's lawyer apparently realized there was no way to talk around it, no way to pretend it was an oversight or a miscommunication. The only option was to admit the truth. The confession itself was remarkable in how direct it was. According to witnesses, the lawyer acknowledged that the withholding was deliberate, not an accident, not a misunderstanding about what the court order required, a conscious choice to hide evidence that would be damaging to Trump's defense. That's the kind of admission that destroys legal careers, because lawyers have a duty to the court that goes beyond their duty to their clients. They can't lie, they can't hide evidence, they can't deliberately deceive judges, even if doing so would help their client's case. When you're admitted to practice law, you take an oath to uphold the integrity of the legal system, and Trump's lawyer just admitted to violating that oath. The judge's response shows you how seriously courts take this kind of misconduct. Immediately after the confession, the judge started laying out the potential consequences, explained that this wasn't just an ethical violation that would be handled by the Bar Association. This was potentially criminal obstruction, criminal contempt, the kind of behavior that can land you in jail. The judge pulled out documents and compared them side by side with the lawyer's previous sworn statements, showed everyone in the courtroom the contradictions, the places where what the lawyer said under oath didn't match what the document showed. This was the judge building a record, making it absolutely clear that the misconduct was intentional and provable. The contempt threat was immediate and specific. The judge didn't say we'll consider contempt charges later. The judge said if you continue this behavior, if there's any more dishonesty or obstruction, I will hold you in contempt right now. Criminal contempt, which means the judge can order the lawyer arrested on the spot, can have bailiffs escort them out in handcuffs, can impose jail time without waiting for a separate trial. That's extraordinary power that judges rarely use because it's so dramatic and severe. But this judge was apparently so angry at the deliberate deception that immediate criminal contempt was on the table. The distinction between civil and criminal contempt is important here. Civil contempt is about compelling someone to do something they're supposed to do, like turn over documents or follow a court order, is remedial. Criminal contempt is about punishing past behavior that showed disrespect for the court, is punitive, and criminal contempt can mean jail time. The judge made it very clear that what Trump's lawyer did crossed from civil into criminal territory, because deliberately lying to a judge and withholding court-ordered evidence isn't just failing to comply, it's actively undermining the court's authority, and judges have very little patience for that. What's particularly damning is how this fits into the pattern of Trump's legal representation. Multiple lawyers across multiple cases facing similar accusations. In New York courts, Trump's lawyers have been threatened with sanctions for making frivolous arguments. In federal court, they've been accused of filing motions just to delay proceedings, and now we have a lawyer confessing to deliberately withholding evidence. That suggests this isn't about individual attorneys making mistakes. It's about a defense strategy that involves pushing legal and ethical boundaries, testing how much you can get away with, and some lawyers who work for Trump apparently go along with it, even when it puts their own careers and freedom at risk. The question everyone's asking is why? Why would a lawyer risk jail time and disbarment to help Trump? And the answer probably involves a combination of factors. Maybe they thought they wouldn't get caught. Maybe they believe Trump's narrative that the whole case is a witch hunt and therefore normal rules don't apply. Maybe they were under pressure from Trump himself to do whatever it takes to win. Maybe they convinced themselves that the withheld evidence wasn't really that important, even though the judge obviously disagreed. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. A lawyer confessing to misconduct and facing immediate consequences. The impact on Trump's case is severe because now the judge knows that Trump's legal team can't be trusted. Every statement they make is going to be scrutinized. Every document they produce is going to be examined for what might be missing. Every argument they raise is going to be viewed skeptically. The judge is essentially going to treat Trump's lawyers like hostile witnesses, assume they're hiding something unless proven otherwise. That makes it exponentially harder to defend a case because you need the judge to at least consider your arguments in good faith. And when you've been caught deliberately deceiving the court, good faith goes out the window. The other lawyers on Trump's team are now in an impossible position. Do they distance themselves from their colleague who confessed? Do they try to defend the conduct? Do they stay silent and hope it doesn't splash back on them? Any choice they make has risks. If they defend the misconduct, they might face similar accusations and contempt threats. If they distance themselves, they look like they're not a unified team, which weakens their overall defense. If they stay silent, they look complicit. There's no good option when one member of your legal team has just confessed to lying to the judge. The Bar Association complaints are probably already being filed. When a lawyer admits in open court to deliberately withholding evidence and deceiving a judge, that triggers automatic disciplinary proceedings. The state bar is going to investigate. They're going to review the court transcripts. They're going to interview the lawyer and probably other members of Trump's legal team. And the likely outcome is some form of discipline, maybe a suspension, maybe a public reprimand, possibly even disbarment if the Bar Association concludes the misconduct was severe enough. A confession to intentional deception is about as serious as attorney misconduct gets. The public relations disaster is significant too, because this isn't some technical legal argument that only lawyers understand. This is simple. Trump's lawyer lied and got caught and confessed. That's easy for anyone to grasp. And it reinforces the narrative that Trump's defense is built on deception, that his legal team will say and do anything, including breaking the law, to help him avoid accountability. For people following these cases, that's going to influence how they view everything Trump's lawyers say going forward. If they lied once about withholding evidence, what else are they lying about? What other evidence is being hidden? What other deceptions haven't been caught yet? The viral nature of this moment means it's going to follow everyone involved forever. The lawyer who confessed is going to be known as the attorney who admitted to lying for Trump. Every future client, every future case, every future job interview is going to involve questions about this incident. That's a permanent stain on a legal career that might never wash out. And for Trump, it's another example of the chaos and dysfunction that surrounds his legal defense. Another headline about lawyers behaving badly. Another judge threatening his team with contempt. Another piece of evidence that maybe the problem isn't a biased legal system, but Trump's own conduct and the lawyers willing to cross ethical lines to defend him. So what does this confession and contempt threat actually mean moving forward? Let's talk consequences, because they're serious and they affect not just this one lawyer, but Trump's entire legal strategy across multiple cases. First, and most immediately, the lawyer who confessed is in serious trouble. Criminal contempt charges are almost certainly coming. The judge made it clear that the behavior crossed the line from civil to criminal. And when a lawyer admits to deliberately deceiving the court and withholding evidence, there's really no defense. The confession is on the record. The judge has laid out the proof. The Bar Association is going to investigate. This lawyer is looking at potential jail time, definite sanctions, and probable suspension or disbarment. A legal career destroyed because they chose to cross ethical lines for Donald Trump. The immediate impact on the current case is massive. The judge now has every reason to distrust Trump's entire legal team. When one lawyer admits to deliberate deception, it casts doubt on everything that legal team has said or done. The judge is going to scrutinize every filing, every argument, every piece of evidence with extreme skepticism. And that's a huge disadvantage for Trump, because in court, you need credibility. You need the judge to at least consider your arguments fairly. When the judge thinks your lawyers are liars who will withhold evidence, that consideration evaporates. Every close call is going to go against Trump. Every questionable ruling is going to hurt his defense, all because his lawyer couldn't follow basic ethical rules about honesty and disclosure. The precedent this sets for Trump's other lawyers is chilling, because now they all know that judges are willing to follow through on contempt threats, that confessing to misconduct leads to immediate severe consequences, that working for Trump isn't worth risking jail time and disbarment. Some lawyers are probably already looking for exits, trying to withdraw from Trump's cases before they end up in similar situations. And the lawyers who stay are going to be much more cautious, much less willing to push boundaries or engage in aggressive tactics that might cross ethical lines. That might sound like a good thing, and in terms of legal ethics it is, but for Trump, it means his defense gets weaker, less willing to take risks, less creative in finding ways to delay or obstruct. The jury impact is going to be significant if this case goes to trial. Potential jurors are going to know about this incident. They're going to have seen news coverage of Trump's lawyer confessing to withholding evidence, and that's going to color how they view everything Trump's legal team says during trial. If the defense argues that Trump didn't know something or didn't intend something, jurors are going to think, yeah, but your lawyer's already admitted to lying, so why should we believe you now? The credibility damage is permanent, and it extends beyond just the lawyer who confessed to the entire defense strategy. The political ramifications are complicated as usual. Trump's base will probably see this as proof that the legal system is so rigged that even his lawyers are being forced to confess to things they didn't do. They'll create conspiracy theories about the judge threatening the lawyer until they made a false confession. They'll ignore the actual evidence and the actual documents that prove the misconduct. But for everyone else, for independent voters, for people who care about rule of law, this looks terrible. It looks like Trump's legal team is so desperate that they're willing to break the law, that they're willing to lie to judges, that the whole operation is corrupt from top to bottom. The cost to Trump financially is significant too. The lawyer who confessed is probably going to need their own legal representation to defend against contempt charges, to handle bar association proceedings, to try to salvage what's left of their career. And that legal representation isn't going to come cheap. Plus, Trump might need to find replacement counsel, might need to hire new lawyers to take over whatever role the confessing lawyer played. And every time you bring in new lawyers, there's a cost. They need time to get up to speed on the case. They need to review all the documents and evidence. They need to develop their own understanding of the strategy. All of that takes time and money, and Trump's legal bills are already astronomical across all his cases. The message this sends to other potential Trump lawyers is clear. Representing Trump is dangerous for your career. It might involve being asked to do things that cross ethical lines. It might result in you confessing to misconduct and facing contempt charges. It might end with you losing your law license and going to jail. For most competent, experienced ethical attorneys, that's not a risk worth taking, which means Trump's already shrinking pool of willing legal representation is going to shrink even more. He's going to be left with lawyers who are either desperate for any client or ideologically committed enough to Trump that they'll risk everything. Neither category is likely to provide high-quality legal representation. The appellate implications are severe. If Trump loses this case and tries to appeal, one of the issues his lawyers will want to raise is judicial bias or procedural errors. But it's really hard to argue that the judge treated you unfairly when your own lawyer confessed to lying to that judge. An appellate court is going to look at that confession and say Trump's lawyers created the hostile environment through their own misconduct. Any harsh treatment from the judge was justified by the defense team's behavior. That makes successful appeals much less likely. Every error Trump's lawyers want to challenge on appeal can be met with, yeah, but your team admitted to deliberately deceiving the trial court, so maybe that's why things went badly for you. The historical record is now set in stone. This confession is in the court transcripts, it's in news archives, it's in video clips circulating on social media. Decades from now, when people study this period, they're going to read about Trump's lawyer admitting to misconduct and being threatened with jail time by a judge. That's going to be part of the permanent record of Trump's legal troubles. Not that he was unfairly persecuted, but that his lawyers were willing to lie for him and got caught doing it. The institutional impact on the legal profession is worth considering too, because this case is being watched by lawyers across the country. Young attorneys are seeing what happens when you cross ethical lines for a powerful client. They're seeing that judges will enforce consequences, that bar associations will investigate, that the risks of misconduct are real and severe. That might deter future ethical violations, might make lawyers think twice before agreeing to hide evidence or deceive courts, even if a client pressures them to do so. In that sense, this disaster for Trump's lawyer might actually strengthen the integrity of the legal profession overall. So where does this leave us? Trump's lawyer confessed to misconduct. The judge threatened immediate criminal contempt and jail time. The entire legal team's credibility is destroyed. The case is compromised. Future appeals are weakened. Other lawyers are probably looking for exits. The political damage is significant, and all of this is playing out in public, creating viral moments that will define Trump's legal troubles for years to come. This wasn't a setback, this was a disaster. The kind of disaster that happens when lawyers decide the rules don't apply to them and judges decide to prove otherwise in the most dramatic way possible.